both commercial and residential, and provide you with the necessary information you need to make sure your garage door is in working and smooth condition. Give Doors Plus a call today at 402-590-5800 to book an appointment and learn more about our preventative maintenance plans. Doors Plus, garage doors, and more.
Ever feel judged at the gym?
You don't know how to use the leg curl machine? Are you serious? Is this your first day alive? No, it's okay. I love helping people during their first day on Earth.
At Planet Fitness, get energy without the judgment and join the judgment-free zone. Never intimidating, always free fitness training and equipment for every workout. Get energized today during the Big Fitness Energy Sale for $1 down, $10 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, February 16th. See Home Club for details.
The Mill Coffee and Tea, formerly with 4 Lincoln locations, but now 5 Lincoln locations. That's 25% more locations than there used to be. Can you even imagine a world where there's only 4 Lincoln Mill locations? Feels like ages ago. We were all so young then. The Mill on 11, located right alongside the 93.7 The Ticket Studios at 1040 O Street.
Ready to upgrade your combine in 2024? The team at Landmark Implement is here to help find the right combine to fit your operations needs. Choose from 4.5% for up to 60 months or a 12-month interest waiver, followed by John Deere financial rates with approved credit through the end of February. When you purchased a pre-owned S or X Series combine from Landmark, know you are backed by Landmark's extensive parts and service network with mobile techs and parts drop-off points to keep you up and running. View our current inventory online at landmarkimp.com or stop by your local Landmark to experience the Landmark difference.
School taught you all about the 4 seasons, spring, summer, and so on. And then there's the way we really tell what time of year it is in sports seasons. Football season, baseball season, or off season. But what's the chocolate season? Well, it's now. And now, and now, and always. Whether you're looking for a caffeinated pick-me-up on the way to work, a little snack on the way home, or you need the perfect gift that's sure to be appreciated, it's time for the chocolate season. 40th and Old Cheney, or order ahead at thechocolatseason.com.
You can get diesel anywhere, but what about Atomic Diesel? That comes from Stern. Atomic Diesel is your solution to all your cold weather problems. Prevent clogged fuel filters, increase your fuel economy, and save money with Atomic Diesel. Contact Roger at Stern today by calling 1-800-477-2744 to see how Atomic Diesel and the rest of their line of fuels and lubricants can keep your operation running at max capacity.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now, they've raised wages again, and they're hiring for production operators at $24.62 per hour, which grows to $28.97 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $33.36 per hour, with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates, with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or apply, go to continentaljobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
This is Brad with Midwest Bank, proudly serving our Nebraska communities for over 70 years. We're a community bank, making local decisions, supporting local organizations, and helping local businesses and farms succeed. We are dedicated to serving our clients and helping them meet their financial needs with sound, innovative banking solutions. From an array of checking and deposit accounts, cash management services, to small business, real estate, and ag lending. We're here for you. Your community, your bank, Midwest Bank. Find out more at midwestbank.com. Member FDIC.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old-fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake. Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
This is the Happy Hour.
You guys going to happy hour?
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America.
Yeah, I'll come for a couple.
Here are your hosts, Nick Sainert.
I want to know what it's like to commit a crime without having to spend time in jail.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
C is for chunk.
Brought to you by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome in. Happy Thursday.
It is a Thursday.
It is a Thursday. Happy Thursday. This is the Happy Hour 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick Sainert here. Austin Orman there. Hello, Austin.
Hey, Nick. How we doing?
I'm doing well. How's
Great.
the day?
Going well. Going well. Saw Buddy for lunch. He was in the
There you
area,
go.
so nice to catch up with him.
Had to stop on by. If you are a golf fan, you'll appreciate this. The Genesis Invitational has officially kicked off, or teed off, if you will.
First pitch.
Yes, Tiger Woods teed off a little around 11:30 or so. And last I checked, he is sitting there at 1 under, has 3 birdies on the day. He bogeyed as well. So a nice job by Tiger Woods. He's been looking good. He's wearing the new Sunday Red apparel as well. He's got a really cool like white cream sweater on today that I wasn't a big fan of the Sunday Red logo, but then I saw it and I'm like, all right, maybe I need to pick up one of those sweaters.
Works better on the gear than it does on its own on social media, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not on board necessarily with the the shoes were fine. It looks better when you actually see it on a person other than a mannequin. So I'm on board with it. As always, 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline and the Starter Heyman text line are open for you guys the entire show today. Plenty of stuff to get to over the course of the next 50 minutes or so. We got some college baseball discussion as the season will kick off tomorrow, not only for Nebraska, but for the rest of the country. And since Austin and I are here, we both spoke to Lance Harvell, Husker Baseball's assistant coach, yesterday. There were some really good things that I want to kind of revert back to and discuss with Austin and get his thoughts on, because we went a little long with Coach Harvell yesterday and didn't really get to break it down as well as I would have liked on Wednesday. Also want to talk about Bubble Watch, right? Because here we are just a couple of weeks away from not only the Big Ten tournament, but ultimately Selection Sunday. Nebraska sitting there at 17-8. They're sitting at 53rd in the net, if I remember correctly. 50th in Ken Palm or 49th in Ken Palm. And they got some big, opportunities to not necessarily build their resume, but to avoid killing their resume on deck, on the docket for them starting Saturday against Penn State. Some more thoughts on the Ohio State situation and Chris Holtmann moving on. And then last but certainly not least, plenty of discussion as we want to talk about the 4 teams, the 4 organizations, programs that have now joined the Big Ten for the fall of 2024. Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC. Where do you rank those jobs in just the terms of those 4? Because later on the block, Strick and Austin are going to break down the ranking, the coaches of the Big Ten Conference. But what about the jobs just of those 4 institutions? Yes, Oregon's probably the clear-cut number 1, but how did the rest fall in line? And this comes just a couple of days after UCLA obviously hires Deshaun Foster, one of their alumni, to lead the program. And let's go ahead and start there, because Austin, I told you this off air, and I'll bring it now on the air, that it felt like Deshaun Foster, the new UCLA head coach, it wasn't UCLA settling, but it felt like there were better options out there, maybe one of those being Tony White. it felt like there were better options out there for UCLA. You go out, you hire Deshaun Foster, who, yes, is a former UCLA Bruin himself, but he also doesn't have a coordinator experience. He doesn't have head coaching experience. The only title that Deshaun Foster has ever held was running backs coach. And he's done that for 9 seasons. And so it feels like this was an opportunity, yes, for UCLA, not only to bring in one of their own, but if they are truly going through this rebuild process, then yeah, Deshaun Foster might be the answer. But in this day and age of college football, as we know, fans want results quickly.
They do, which is where I can understand the thought process for UCLA being so late in the process, right? Pretty much every other head coaching vacancy has been filled. That one opened up only because Chip Kelly took an offensive coordinator job in your team's new conference now. So I can understand UCLA feeling a little bit out of options, but I don't think they fully were out of options, right? Signing day is in the books. You also have the spring transfer window coming in. I think they would have more than enough time if they wanted to take a look at some other options to do so. We can get into just how good of a job UCLA is, how good a job it has been, what it can be. UCLA is fine. I think it's generally pretty mid-tier. You can see the advantages of being in LA, of having the basketball school moniker attached to you, where it should be a lower pressure job, just be good enough. But then the disadvantages where you're absolutely an afterthought. I think Husker fans, and I'm sure plenty of other colleges, but again, being in Nebraska, Husker fans would caution UCLA about making the move for an alum just to spark interest.
Yeah.
Because that's a lighter flick, right? It's a match. It's not the actual fire itself, right? You can understand, Bill Moose's thought process in, bringing Scott Frost back. UCLA, I think, needs a spark similar to that, even though they've had some better results. It sounds like the boosters weren't exactly engaged, which isn't surprising. So I think UCLA's goal was to have, Deshaun Foster take over, get back on the right footing with boosters, get some more money in the coffers. But the best way to do that isn't to make that short-term hire, make the easy hire. The best way to do that is to set yourself up for success long-term. Again, not knowing Deshaun Foster as a head coach, it's hard for me to say it won't work and UCLA absolutely made the wrong move. But it does seem like UCLA could have put some more thought into this and always gone back to Deshaun Foster, but it seems like they didn't even try to raise their ceiling potentially.
And maybe part of that, like you said, you're super late in the process was UCLA at this moment, and which is another angle that we can talk about. Is this going to be a new thing where coaches jump ship later in the offseason, right? You had obviously the Nick Saban retirement played a factor in Kalen DeBoer leaving when he did, but that was late in the carousel. Now, obviously, Chip Kelly was kind of, rummaging around the NFL and seeing if there was something there before ultimately leaving for Ohio State. I'm really fascinated to see if this is a thing that we won't know the exact answer to for a couple of years now, but if this is going to becoming a normal thing where coaches leave their current post late in the offseason just because either they didn't get the NIL response that they wanted to after recruiting classes, they don't feel great about the upcoming season, right? Because really now, think about the conversation whenever we're talking about jobs, and in this scope of the convo that we're having between Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington, UCLA might be pretty low, might be the fourth on that list, strictly because of lack of resources.
I think that's totally fair to say. And that's where, again, I think the long-term investment had to be the play. Not the short-term, year over year, did we get more NIL money from boosters this year than we did last year? But is UCLA willing to do the hard work to lay the groundwork for success in a new conference? Again, I don't know that Deshaun Foster's not going to be a successful coach. There's a lot working against him right now because there's a world, Nick, that UCLA wins 3 games next year. They have a tough schedule. They do. I think of all the newcomers, they probably got hit the hardest by the schedule, right? So to give a first-time head coach maybe the toughest schedule of any of the 4 teams entering a new league, that just sets him up for failure, which then doesn't accomplish your goal of getting engagement, especially from boosters.
So UCLA, to Austin's point, UCLA has, and this is including non-conference, right? It's not great non-conference wise either. Non-conference game against LSU in Baton Rouge to the Bruins. They got to go to Baton Rouge. Then they back that up with a game against Oregon, on the road against Penn State, against Minnesota. They'll travel to Nebraska a couple of weeks after that on Saturday, November 2nd. Then you'll back that up with a game against Iowa. And guess what? A road game at Washington and a home game against USC.
Don't they go to Piscataway too?
They do, right before Nebraska. They have to travel this is the 4-week stretch. And this is where it's difficult. And it's going to be tough and taxing on UCLA, simply just the travel.
Mm-hmm.
You'll face off against, so I guess we could even back this up into like a 6-week span. Saturday, September 21st, they travel to LSU. Home, that's a long trip, right?
Tough environment.
A tough environment, probably going to be a pretty good team, even though they're replacing their quarterback. Home game against Oregon.
Tough game.
All the way across the country at Penn State.
Brutal.
Home game against Minnesota.
Okay.
Middle of the road Big Ten team. Back across the country to Rutgers. Back to UCLA.
Probably going to be a super early local kickoff.
Yes.
That's an 11 a.m. game.
So UCLA at Rutgers, and then then they do have a bye week before they go to Nebraska. So so 6 or 7 weeks, 6 straight games there. That's a taxing one.
Yeah.
Not only to mention, then you have to play a team that's been at the top of the Big Ten West in Iowa, national championship contender last year in Washington, probably not going to be this season.
Right.
And then Lincoln Riley and USC. And then a tough non-con game to end the season against Fresno.
Who you add because you have to fly out to Hawaii.
Yes.
They go both ways. They go all the way out to Hawaii. They go all the way to Piscataway.
Yeah.
At least they have the bye between Rutgers and Nebraska. I think that sets up pretty well for them, but that's going to be a beat up team after that stretch with still plenty on the horizon. And then to add Fresno as another home game for the Hawaii exception.
Fresno's not
that's
a team
tough
you
one.
want.
No. Ask Purdue.
Yeah, Fresno's not a team that a lot of teams want on their schedule. So I think that, just speaking of it, the jobs of these 4 schools, where do you land, Austin? Are you number 1's Oregon? And I think we agreed that number 4 would be UCLA. So then you look at, okay, current spot for Washington is you lose a lot of players. You lose your entire staff. You bring in Jed Fish. Will Rogers, I believe, is still planning to be at Washington. So you have a quarterback going into the next season. Or are you USC, where you lose the number 1 overall pick? You have lost, you switch out defensive coordinators. And you didn't only lose your starting quarterback, you lost your backup. And so now you're going to go to your 3rd string in Miller Moss. Who's 2 and who's 3?
To me, it's kind of a, do you prefer cookie dough ice cream or mint chocolate chip ice cream? Because there are arguments for both schools. I'm going to lean with Washington, though. I really am.
Okay.
It's a national enough program with plenty of resources right there in Seattle.
Yeah.
The pro sports market is present, but not so overbearing, right? Washington will never be the headlining team in that market, but it won't slip nearly as far down the list just because the list isn't as long as USC. I think the ceiling is probably equally as high, right? Both of those teams have won national championships before. Maybe it's simpler in terms of talent acquisition at USC because you're in Los Angeles. You can say you're in state for the California kids. Seattle's not terrible, though, right? There's plenty of talent up there in the Pacific Northwest among Washington and Oregon. And I do think it's lower pressure to some degree, right? Yes, there are still stakes. Yes, people will still care. But I don't think that if Washington fails, the negative headlines are as negative or as biting as they are, or even for a USC team that went 7-5 with the expectation. So for my money, I think there's more pointing favorably, more consistently to Washington.
And it's really interesting because I look at, we always have the conversation of, all right, UCLA is this basketball school, right? Football is going to be overshadowed rather. USC football school, there's expectation there. Washington's just kind of floating. Like you don't know which program takes king, right? They had a good year with Markelle Fultz playing, as on the men's basketball team. Their baseball program hasn't been anything special to write home about. The football team also has been somewhat mediocre up until this last season, or up until Kalen DeBoer got there.
Softball's been good. Volleyball's been good. Those don't move the
yeah.
needle to the same levels they do in Nebraska.
And what I would say is you made a good point of like Jed Fish. I'm a big Jed Fish fan because of what he was able to do at Arizona, but a small sample size at Arizona. And so you wonder, okay, now are you able to do that maybe in a tougher conference that the Big Ten is going to be compared to the Pac-12? And are you going to be able to attract the talent like you were in Arizona to Washington, to Seattle? Because are you going to be able to bring in a Noah Fafita? Or are you going to be able to bring in wide receivers that complement
Jacob
him well?
Cowing?
Yeah. And that, once again, that's a question that we won't know the answers to until 2026. But that's kind of the conversation we need to have.
Let me ask you this. Who's the better football coach, Lincoln Riley or Chris Peterson?
And it's crazy because if you would have asked a couple of years ago, it's Lincoln Riley in a heartbeat, right?
I don't think it is, though.
I don't know
I'm
if
a Chris
it is
Peterson
now.
guy.
I don't know if it is now. If you truly read, and there's a lot of articles and like not documentaries, but just deep dives into what Chris Peterson did for Washington, you realize how valuable he was to that university.
What he did at Boise before.
Yeah,
I think Peterson's
absolutely.
a great program guy.
And it fit Washington well. Lincoln Riley's the perspective of Lincoln Riley has changed dramatically in the last 2 seasons. I think ever since he left for USC, because it was the expectation for Lincoln Riley throughout the whole drama of, is he going to LSU? He comes out after Bedlam, says, I'm not going to LSU. The very next day he leaves, goes to USC. It was this universal thought of, okay, he's instantly going to win a national title or at least compete for one. Because not only did Lincoln Riley recruit Southern Cal incredibly well while at Oklahoma and brought Southern Cal high school players to the Sooners, well, now you put him in Southern California with the resources at a at a blue blood football school, with the alumni, with the fan support, with the alumni support. If you want to combine those two, it was almost like, all right, there's no way this fails. And now here we are, a couple years removed, and he was hesitant to remove Alex Grinch. He probably should have never brought Alex Grinch with him from Oklahoma.
Which is weird because Alex Grinch was good at Washington State.
Yes. But then in the Big 12, Grinch wasn't that great as a D coordinator. So then it was kind of a mind-boggling move to bring him with Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma to USC. And yeah, you get your quarterback, and for the most part, recruited pretty well. We obviously know the transfer portal was active for USC the last couple of seasons. There was some disconnect, though, between Lincoln Riley and success at USC. And now, I don't know, Austin, I think that Lincoln Riley is in serious trouble if they don't win more than 8 this year.
I think so, too. And I don't think he's an NFL-style head coach.
No.
Lincoln Riley is a better coach than Cliff Kingsbury, but I think they're in a similar tree, right? I think Sean McVay found a way to evolve past his offensive coordinator, wiring. I think Kyle Shanahan did the same to some degree. I don't know if Lincoln Riley will be able to get over that hump. Yeah. I think he's more in the Kingsbury spot. The other interesting thing we haven't talked about when it comes to USC Washington, Jen Cohen, the AD, was at Washington, moved down to USC.
That's right.
I think for an AD, you absolutely make that move. That is absolutely a step up for an athletic director.
Yeah.
For a football coach, I'm not so sure.
I'm also, last thing before we get to break is, it is interesting to think about what would Lincoln Riley look like at Oklahoma right now.
Better than Venables, probably.
Better than Venables, and better than I think Lincoln Riley would be at USC right now. I think he was, when you had the support, we got to remember that Bob Stoops basically handed him that job on a silver platter. He got it ready for Lincoln Riley, and he didn't step down, and Bob Stoops didn't retire until Lincoln Riley was ready. And he had success, obviously, with Caleb Williams. That was the back end of Spencer Rattler, right? At Oklahoma, at least. That Lincoln Riley was in a really, really good spot as a young head coach. First head coaching job was for the Oklahoma Sooners. The writing was on the wall that they were eventually going to leave the Big 12 for the SEC. And he decided to dip for whatever reason, whether it was the money, whether it was the conference that he didn't want to be in the SEC, whatever the case may be. he's now, and I don't want to say like karma, but like here he is. The karma's getting and catching up to Lincoln Riley to the point where you took more money, you went to a recruiting hotbed that ended up going to not only just as powerful as a conference, maybe a little less powerful, but one of the Power Two, turned into the Big Ten Conference. You took more money, but now you're sitting there going, okay, we're going to have to start our third string quarterback. That, yes, they did win the bowl game, but we're going to have to start our third string quarterback. We had to hit the transfer portal incredibly hard. And guess what? My seat is somewhat warm because I haven't been anywhere close to a national championship. Nowhere close. And there's always been major flaws that on week 3 or week 4 of the season, earlier on in the campaigns, you can sit there and say, this isn't a national championship contender. It's not even the case of that USC is undefeated up until the last week of the season or 2 weeks before the season ends.
And they run into Utah.
And they run into Utah. They run into Oregon. They run into even a UCLA. They get upset. That's not been the case.
No.
It's that they've been bad in terms of like national championship contender, bad in the early parts of the season that doesn't even have them included in the conversation by the mid-year.
That I think was out of respect for Caleb Williams and the skill position core, not because of anything USC did or any signs that USC was showing. Yeah. So you take what you can get, but Lincoln Riley's seat ought to be warmer than Ryan Day's for my money.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. I would 100% agree. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk a little college baseball. Baseball gets rolling tomorrow, and games are on earlier than you may realize. Austin and I are going to break down just how much we love daytime baseball right after this on the Happy Hour. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Huge thanks to Empire Fence and Netting for their support. As always, you're listening to the Happy Hour on 93.7 The Ticket.
What a day. I could sure use an afternoon pick-me-up.
Hold up. The new 93.7 The Ticket location has a milk, coffee, and tea inside? Oh, yeah. This is a game changer.
Need an afternoon pick-me-up? How about a coffee or smoothie on your way to work? Stop by the Ticket Mill location on 1040 O Street to get your go-to drink or try out our new game day drinks exclusive to the Ticket Mill location. We know it'll make your day a million times better. When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
A lot of work goes into making Nebraska, Nebraska. Keeping it green. Helping it thrive. Making it fun. Everything that goes into caring for our outdoors, from waters to wildlife, plays a big role in making Nebraska home. Learn how we help conserve our state's natural resources at outdoornebraska.org.
Paid for by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station. 93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
The Lincoln forecast for today, expecting a mix of sunshine and clouds with an afternoon high around 44. Tonight, a chance of snow late with an overnight low around 27. And tomorrow, a chance of snow in the morning, then mainly cloudy, breezy, and cold with a high around 35. I'm meteorologist Kyle Fleck for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Junior Achievement at Lincoln inspires and prepares today's young dreamers to be tomorrow's goal breakers, leaders, and things we haven't even imagined yet. Help more kids while having a great time at the JA Bowl-a-thon. Sign your team up and raise money to ensure the educational programs focused on financial literacy, career readiness, and entrepreneurship are always free to thousands of students. The JA Bowl-a-thon is February 16th and 17th at Parkway Lanes and Hollywood Bowl. Register at lincoln.ja.org.
You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
Look at me. This plane is going to Jamaica.
Sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into the Happy Hour 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick and Austin with you. Huge thanks to Empire Fence and Netting for their support. As always, visit them out there in Waverly. 402-464-5685. Notorious BIB texted in, said the football talk is all well and good, but damn it, Husker baseball is getting ready to start up. The guys traveling on down to Dallas. I would assume that they've left already. I was listening to a conversation with one of the players yesterday, and they are practicing down there at Globe Life Field later tonight. So I would assume that they are en route, if not already there, down in Dallas and in Globe Life Field. Just to give an overview on the Big Ten Conference, once again, we talked to Lance Harvell, and you can go back and listen to that conversation on either the ticket, or either the Happy Hour or on the block, because we played at both spots yesterday afternoon.
I took credit for you getting it lined up, so thank you for a second.
That's fine. I don't care. That's fine. I don't need that. But nonetheless, the top 25 rankings were released a couple of days ago. And the lone Big Ten school that's in the top 25 are the Huskers' neighbor to the east. The Iowa Hawkeyes come in at number 20 in the top 25. They finished the season last year 44-16. Brody Brecht will have plenty of conversations about the incredible pitcher guy on the mound in Brody Brecht for Iowa, who consistently hits triple digits on the radar gun. And I also do enjoy having that conversation every now and then of just how normal it is now that college guys are hitting triple digits. Because just 5-6 years ago, like Aroldis Chapman was really the first one in the professional and the majors that would hit triple digits consistently. But now we're starting to see this change in baseball. And like Rob Childress would be an awesome guy to have this conversation with, of like the evolution of guys throwing triple digits. It was like Aroldis in a short-term outing, right? In relief. But then it went into college guys maybe having in once again short-term situations, right? Schwelly got up there a couple of times up in the upper 90s.
Colby Gomez could huck it.
Gomez, yes, absolutely. And then it was professional pitchers, like professional starters, were consistently triple digits. Well, now you have guys like Chase Burns and Brody Brecht who are going out there in long-term situations.
Look at Skeens.
Yeah.
Like averaging 97 through like the 5th and 6th last year.
I mean, these guys are consistently touching 100 and 100 plus. And so it's just been fascinating in just a short term, a short amount of time. You went from like, oh my gosh, you don't want to face Aroldis Chapman because he can huck, 100 and 102. But you only had to worry about him in the 8th or 9th inning. Then it turned into, okay, you have to worry about him maybe in the 6th and like the middle relief. But now it's from inning 1 to inning 9. You have to worry and know how to adjust to the triple digits.
I would even say just average fastball velocity is probably ticked up a good 3 miles per hour.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started getting in college baseball, it was weird to see a guy, sit 94, 95. It was, mostly 90, 91 for starters, maybe get a reliever at 92, 93. Now, if you're a starter, you got to hit 92, 93 and consistently hold it. And for a bullpen guy, if you're not 95 plus, like 100 is still rare territory, right? It's more common, but that's still rarefied air to be in. But as a bullpen guy, if all you're doing is you're out there for an inning or maybe 2 and you're not sitting at 95, you're a soft tosser now. You just don't have it to the degree that you would have even 5, let alone 10 years ago.
And it's crazy because you look at, and this is specifically the college game, it can still be as simple as just throw strikes and let your defense work. However, we're now getting to this era of just baseball in general, where it's guys that used to throw hard would be drafted as outfielders. They'd also be they'd also just not maybe get the looks. But if they threw hard, it was all right. We like guys that can throw, up and towards the triple digits. They might be wild at times on the mound. Now you're finding out that guys that can throw up in those triple digits or close to it are also accurate. They're pinpointing it, and they're able to paint corners, and things like that are so tough for hitters, obviously, to see. And it's just, once again, just the evolution of the game is so dramatic, and it's changed so much in just a short amount of time, to where it was, you had obviously the Tom Glavins and the Greg Maddixes of the day were fun to watch for baseball purists. But now it's, if you are able to throw it 97 like Paul Skeens was consistently, but then also locate, and you had
Paul Skeens was consistently,
and have 2 or 3 really consistent pitches. Well, congratulations, you're going to go to the pros. Because just 3 or 4 years ago, it was guys, you could throw up there like the Kumar Rocker. You could throw up, but sometimes control was an issue. That's not the case anymore with a lot of these guys.
It's really not, and that's part of the joy to me of college baseball, is that yes, there are bad major league pitchers who throw that hard. But the consistency in pitching across Major League Baseball, on top of what's being emphasized on the hitting end to try to counter that, don't get me wrong, I love watching baseball, but in college baseball, those guys are rarer, right? Because you get the best of the best from college at high school going on to the pros, but you still do have to worry a little bit more about control. So I think in Major League Baseball, it's more of we have to find a way to counter this, because 1 through 9, first inning through 9th inning, we don't get a reprieve from this. Whereas in college baseball, maybe Friday night of an important series, you see it 1 through 9. And maybe they have another guy to go Saturday. But that's where I think this Nebraska baseball team is heading. I think Nebraska baseball, if it really continues to lean into the ethos Coach Harvell was talking to us about yesterday of compete, be gritty, I think Nebraska baseball, honestly, Nick, will be able to outlast teams quite a bit. I don't know if they have anyone that's going to consistently hit 100, that's going to see innings, even 95. But I think this offense is tailor-made to combat the velocity, right? I hate to use this comparison because it kind of feels lazy, but I also think it's somewhat accurate. I go back to the 14-15 Kansas City Royals, built on contact, built on keep the line moving. I think Huskers have a little bit more power in the lineup than maybe those Royals did relative to the level, but decent starters you have some expectations for, but really the bullpen, I think, is what's going to help Nebraska mix and match, play those matchups really well. So while college baseball is moving the way of MLB in some ways with the velocity and with the home runs, I think Nebraska can counter that to some degree. My last point on that is it's going to be fascinating, especially in college baseball, to watch early in the season versus the teams that make it to Omaha, because Tempe in Winston-Salem, in Gainesville, in Baton Rouge don't play like Omaha.
No.
At all. Which is where, okay, it's great that, Tommy Tanks can do his thing, and he hit a home run in the College World Series last year. But it's harder to do at TD Ameritrade Park, which is where a guy like Chase Burns at Wake Forest with their pitching lab, he would be my pick for, College World Series MVP, just because of how much simpler it is for a guy with his velocity and his stuff to control a College World Series in Omaha than even a regional or a super.
Yeah, and we've seen guys, in pitching, I should say, pitchers specifically, excel at TD Ameritrade because it is a pitcher friendly ballpark, because it just plays more like a big league ballpark, which also that's something to see this weekend, right? And I was listening to, the players talked about it in media sessions. Globe Life Field has a little bit of a shorter backstop, which then is a benefit for pitchers on the mound, right? Little things like that, depth perception plays a factor into all this. The batter's eye, Lance Harvell talked about it yesterday, where they have the virtual reality and stuff. They can play at Globe Life Field virtually. They can get this. So cool. And it's so fascinating because they can get this somewhat of a depth perception, have an idea of what it feels like. Now, obviously, nothing's going to compare to actually stepping in the batter's box on that field. Especially the empty seats play a factor just because it looks like it just goes on forever.
Yeah.
But it's similar to like the state basketball tournament at Pinnacle Bank Arena, the early rounds when the seats aren't necessarily full. But it is just crazy to think about all the technology that they have. I'll tell you this, Austin, one guy that I'm really excited to see in the I think he's going to be more of a bullpen guy, might be a midweek starter eventually for Nebraska. Carson Jasa from, and this is somebody that Husker fans might know. He's a pitcher from, let's see, Thornton, Colorado, a true freshman. This is his size, 6'7", 230.
Woo!
6'7", 230 pounds. Yeah, on the mound for Nebraska. That is obviously mound, as folks know, elevated surface. When you got a 6'7" dude standing up there as well, that's intimidating, right? He was rated the 4th best right-handed thrower out of high school in the country.
Woo.
The 9th overall, I believe it was the 9th overall prospect. Yes, 9th overall prospect out of Colorado by Perfect Game, which is the recruiting site, basically baseball's version of 24/7 Sports. And then his father, the reason that he was drawn to Nebraska, his dad played at Nebraska Westland. Dad played basketball at Nebraska Westland. So how about that? Carson Jasa, a 6'7", 230-pound freshman. That's one of those guys that we've talked extensively about. Nebraska will have to carve out roles, especially in the midweek series. These freshmen, these guys that maybe came from JUCO, but also the freshmen, new faces on the team, that's where you're going to earn your money. That's where you're going to earn your ability to maybe pitch in a relief setting on a Saturday, but also later in the season. And knock on wood here, let's say, Will Walsh runs into an injury or Brett Sears runs into a little bit of an injury where he just needs a rest. Who can Nebraska lean on? Lance Harvell talked about it yesterday. The depth is something that they're more excited about this year than maybe in years past. Now it's time to go out and prove that. Let's go ahead and we'll take our final timeout. By the way, college baseball starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Hallelujah.
Illinois kicks us off. They'll face off. I believe it might be Wake Forest. No, excuse me, not Wake Forest. Hold on one second. I'll be able
I know we've got Indiana Duke at 11. We've got Illinois Akron. Yes, Akron.
So there you go. Illinois and Akron at 9 a.m. tomorrow. There it is pulled up. Indiana plays Duke, like you said, at 10 a.m.
Bookmark D1 baseball.
Oh my goodness. It's that time of year. It's that time of year. By the way, as I mentioned last week, Nebraska playing in the Shriners Children's College Showdown.
Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing here? That Illinois has 2 games at 1:00 tomorrow on D1 baseball?
No, they have one at 9 a.m. against Akron.
Yeah.
And they have one at 1 p.m. against Akron.
Look right next to the second game against Akron.
I do not have D1 baseball.
Fordham, Illinois.
Fordham is scheduled to play Wake Forest tomorrow. Here. You know
That's
how
so weird. See,
how
like,
we changed this?
I'm trying to show you. See, look at what I'm looking at. Like right about there.
Oh yeah, you can't do that. Yeah,
Illinois
that's
split
not,
squad
that's not
game.
going to work. That's the JV team.
Right.
All right, we can fix this real quickly here by going. So they have, let's see, how many games tomorrow? Illinois baseball schedule once the Fight in the Illini's website loads. But so they'll face off against Illinois. 9 a.m. against Akron, 1 p.m. against Akron, 11 a.m. on Saturday against number 1 Wake Forest.
Hello.
And then they'll wrap that up with a game against Fordham on Sunday. But no, back to the Shriners College Showdown. Really good teams in this one for Nebraska. Great opportunity ahead. If Nebraska, here's the thing, Austin. I'm going through the hypothetical scenarios here. Nebraska faces Baylor at 11 a.m. tomorrow. They face Texas Tech, who's ranked 21st in the country, and then they wrap it up with Oklahoma on Sunday. 2 of 3. You feel good?
Plausible. I think 2 of 3 is a great weekend.
I think 2 of 3 is a great weekend.
Sweeping is a tall task. Baylor was surprisingly
imagine the thoughts if Nebraska sweeps.
I just had to throw it out there because it is technically a possibility. Baylor's not as good as they were, but they're a warm weather team. I think Baylor has a little bit of an advantage playing closer to home, but never say never. Nebraska. Texas Tech is good, but they're not as good as they were a few years ago
They
when
don't have
Nebraska
Josh Young.
beat them. They don't, or Jace, or anyone like that. In Oklahoma, I'm curious to see as well. Just a couple of years removed from being in Omaha, I don't know a whole lot about them, so I'm going to definitely study up over these next couple of days. But if you're Nebraska and you win 2 out of 3, your season's off on the right foot.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a break. We got a text a question. What are some names to watch on offense? Let's talk about it because Nebraska does have some, not this season necessarily, but next year draft eligible guys, and especially one of the middle infielders is what guy to watch for the Huskers. We'll talk about it coming up next as we wrap up the happy hour on 93.7 The Ticket.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the happy hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello, everybody. It's Charlie Stone, and here with me is Andy Goodyear of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, I hear that new Honda manufacturing continues to go up, and you have new Hondas in stock now.
That's correct, Charlie. We have more than 40 new Hondas in stock right now. It's great that a customer can come in and buy a new Honda and drive it home that day. New Honda inventory keeps getting better each month.
Okay, then. How about used cars, Andy?
We have more than 100 pre-owned vehicles to choose from right now, and a lot of fresh trade-ins are coming in daily. We have just about every maker model you can imagine in any price range.
Thanks again, Andy. People love the selection and great service at Honda of Lincoln. Maybe it's time you come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Are you tired of living in pain? It's time to take control. At Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, we're your one-stop shop for expert care in Lincoln. From broken bones to complex reconstruction, our skilled team will help you get back on track. Visit prairieortho.com today and discover why we're the trusted choice for thousands of patients. Don't let pain hold you back. Take the first step towards a better, pain-free life with Prairie Orthopedic and Plastic Surgery, where healing begins. Call 402-489-4700.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
What a day. I could sure use an afternoon pick-me-up.
Hold up. The new 93.7 The Ticket location has a milk, coffee, and tea inside? Oh, yeah. This is a game changer.
Need an afternoon pick-me-up? How about a coffee or smoothie on your way to work? Stop by the Ticket Mill location on 1040 O Street to get your go-to drink or try out our new game day drinks exclusive to the Ticket Mill location. We know it'll make your day a million times better.
Ever felt judged at the gym?
You don't know how to use the leg curl machine? Are you serious? This is your first day alive? No, it's okay. I love helping people during their first day on Earth.
At Planet Fitness, get energy without the judgment and join the judgment-free zone. Never intimidating, always free fitness training and equipment for every workout. Get energized today during the Big Fitness Energy Sale for $1 down, $10 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Friday, February 16th. See Home Club for details.
Discover the difference that expertise and experience can make in your real estate journey with Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Whether you need an appraisal, sales, or farm management, Next Ag comes up with a solution with your legacy and goals in mind. Next Ag isn't just their name, it's your future. So why wait? Visit their website today at www.nextagrealestate.com or give them a call at 402-380-0432 and turn your dreams into reality. Your land, your legacy, their solution. Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Sandhills Global is hiring. With their fast-paced, growing culture, they have hundreds of new openings in sales, marketing, traveling support, software development, web design, and more. Full-time roles offer a 4.5-day work week, along with flexible internships in most areas. Career and internship opportunities are available at our global headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. Find your fit today at www.sandhills.jobs.
Are you working in
or looking to get into the electrical construction industry. The electrical workers of local union 265 are now hiring licensed journeymen and apprentices and are offering great pay and benefits. Call Mike at 402-875-1034 to apply. Start your electrical career today.
A lot of work goes into making Nebraska, Nebraska. Keeping it green. Helping it thrive. Making it fun. Everything that goes into caring for our outdoors, from waters to wildlife, plays a big role in making Nebraska home. Learn how we help conserve our state's natural resources at outdoornebraska.org.
Paid for by Nebraska Game and Parks. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Junior Achievement at Lincoln inspires and prepares today's young dreamers to be tomorrow's goal breakers, leaders, and things we haven't even imagined yet. Help more kids while having a great time at the JA Bowl-a-thon. Sign your team up and raise money to ensure the educational programs focused on financial literacy, career readiness, and entrepreneurship are always free to thousands of students. The JA Bowl-a-thon is February 16th and 17th at Parkway Lanes and Hollywood Bowl. Register at lincoln.ja.org.
Problem gambling is not just a financial issue. It's an emotional problem with financial consequences. If your loved one is struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's 24-hour helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 402-476-2300.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert.
Herbie the Fourth ate his first solid food today, prompting a response of nothing but steaks all week for the Nebraska offensive line.
Then Enrique Alvarez Clary.
No more peaches and carrots for Herbie the Seventh. Baby food be damned.
Sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All righty, wrapping things up here. Nick Sainert, Austin Norman with you on the Happy Hour as we get you ready for On the Block with Strick and Austin. Strick will join via stream here momentarily once On the Block gets started. We had a question on the text line, 402-464-5685. Players to watch on offense for Nebraska baseball, as we kind of went through some of the pitching stuff in the last segment. There's two guys, two specific ones that you'll definitely hear quite a bit of over the course of the season. Austin, I'm going to start. I know who you're going to say number two. So I'm going to start with my number one is a guy that played in 53 games last year, Dylan Carey. Dylan Carey, you might remember it. He was the third baseman last year for the Huskers as a true freshman out of the state of Colorado. I believe he had 3 or 4 home runs last year, if I remember correctly. But once again, started and appeared in all 53 games for the Huskers last year. And now this year has quite the adjustment ahead of him as he's going to take over for Bryce Matthews in that shortstop position. So he'll slide over, which is an adjustment. As you mentioned, his size, I think he's like 6', what'd you say? 6'7"?
6'3", 210.
6'3", 210 over there in shortstop. Nebraska's kind of had that staple of Bryce Matthews or Spencer Schwellenbach at shortstop. Now, Bryce at times last year had some errors, right? That's a position where you have to be sound. Like Nebraska needs to have, they don't have maybe guys that are going to be able to throw up into the triple digits. Allow your defense to work, pitch to contact, as the old cliche term is. You got to figure out a way to allow your defense to work, and your defense has to work for you to where you guys are pretty solid defensively. Dylan Carey's a guy not only has to step up and make that adjustment defensively, but offensively, you look for a jump from him in year 2.
You sure do. I'm curious to see the Gabe Swanson follow-up.
Yeah.
Mashed last year. Kind of came out of nowhere, I think, for a lot of
bombs.
people. So seeing how Gabe Swanson follows it up is on my radar. And then Garrett Anglin. He's the guy that I still think might be the better all-around player, but Gabe Swanson took a lot of headlines last year. I want to see a little bit of an uptick from Garrett Anglin, and I think those are going to be your 2 starting corner outfielders.
Yeah, and I mean, last but not least, before we get the preview of On the Block, I think behind the dish, Nebraska's is going through a catching change, right? Josh Caron is going to enter his second year of full-time catching duties. He not took, but it was time for Griffin Everett to
kind of work out of that catching job. And maybe he was heavy DH and a little first base last year for Nebraska, but now it's Josh Caron's time, right? Last year was Josh Caron's time behind the plate. It's now time for him to take another step, right? Had a disappointing freshman year. I think he hit just a little under 180 his freshman year. Had a better year 2 last year for Nebraska. Now it's time for that junior jump, right? We talked about with Lance Harvell yesterday, that leadership role, right? Nebraska, it's now time for the players that were sophomores, obviously last year, who are now officially upperclassmen. You can't leave all the leadership duties to, 6th year Kyle Perry. It has to be a collective effort. And for guys that are from like JUCO, the new faces, yeah, you can come in and expect them to lead to a certain extent because they've played a lot of baseball. But guys that know how the Nebraska process works and may have been members of that 2021 team, or maybe even the 2022 team, I guess more so, they understand what needs to happen, what needs to change. That's where Josh Caron comes into play for me, I think.
Absolutely. And if Josh Caron isn't up to the task, Ben Columbus.
Yeah.
That's a guy who played his fair share of games last year. I'm trying to get the stats pulled up. So he played in 47 games with 38 starts. When you look at Caron, who started all 48 games that he appeared in, Columbus hit 260, ended up with 8 doubles, didn't end up hitting a home run, but I think there's power in there. So I think Nebraska has a capable backup behind Josh Caron. I think Caron's probably the better defender for my money, but it's kind of now or never time for Josh Caron. Really highly rated guy, like you were mentioning. And I think he can be a foundational piece, kind of like Griffin Everett was for that team a few years ago. It's just time to really see it from number 5.
I'm really fascinated. Two more guys. One really quickly, Caden Brumbaugh, who is a transfer from Oklahoma State 2 seasons ago. Did not play last year for the Huskers, redshirted last season for Nebraska. He's a middle infielder potentially. He's the second baseman for the Huskers this season. And then the last outfielder that we haven't talked about, Riley Silva. Silva, let me just read the bio off of Huskers.com here for him. Silva joins the Huskers after playing 2 seasons at Barton Community College, appeared in 66 total games with the Cougars, hitting .361 at the plate with 11 doubles, 7 triples, 41 ribbies, 75 runs scored, and 45 stolen bases in his time at Barton. How about this? Nebraska matching up with, once again, what Lance Harvell just told us yesterday. This a comp for Riley Silva, and I don't know, I can't remember height and body type and all that. Jackson Hallmark. Does this feel, in terms of like annoying on the base paths, can be aggressive, is going to be the guy that kind of puts Nebraska into positions to be successful?
I went a different direction. I see where you're coming from. I think Riley Silva's got a little bit more Casey Burnham to him.
Okay, that's a good that's a better comp. I would agree with you on that one. Just the guy that he's not going to smack it around the ballpark, but if he gets on, a contact hitter that can get on base and then get you 90 feet extra 90 feet, right? Where if you want to go back to this approach of that cliche gritty over pretty, you're going to need a guy like him to be active.
Yes.
That's how I feel about Riley Silva. Austin, go ahead.
The other guy I want to throw out there, because I keep forgetting about him, but had a sneaky good year, Cole Evans. Hit over 300, a Grand Island product. Not only did he hit over 300, had a 415 on base percentage.
Yeah.
That's a guy that can draw a walk, that can lean into a pitch for the team. Pretty good fielder as well. I mean, 3 errors and 79 putouts is not horrible. So I think we see plenty of Cole Evans this year as well.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think Nebraska baseball, right? And we're going to find out this weekend, starting tomorrow, 11 a.m. first pitch for Nebraska and Baylor. Brett Sears will be on the mound for the Huskers there. But I think when you look at just Nebraska in general, there's an opportunity ahead, not only to finish in the top, 3 or 4 in the Big Ten Conference, but just overall, just to make a jump. And I think they need to. Tomorrow, I definitely want to have this conversation of like, it was what I told you during the break, Austin, of like, Nebraska needs a quality year to retain talent, right? in previous seasons, they were fortunate, despite some struggles, to retain guys like Bryce Matthews. Nowadays, the transfer portal is just as aggressive in college baseball as it is in other sports. Maybe it's not as widely reported, but it's just as aggressive. And you see guys leaving ACC programs to make that jump to the SEC. There might be a smaller pool of Big Ten guys that are capable of making that jump. Nebraska might be more balanced across the board, so they might, be alleviated from that issue right away. But if a guy like Dylan Carey jumps out, or a guy like Gabe Swanson jumps out and has years remaining, Nebraska's got to have success as a team to allow those guys and retain those guys to come back next season, because there's going to be scouts and SEC coaches that are really interested in getting their services.
That's where Nebraska going down to Arlington is dangerous. You need these games. You have to play them. But Tennessee, Oregon, the 3 Big 12 schools are going to get eyes on your guys, right? And you haven't been at their level. So, yes, Nebraska baseball is a good, solid Big Ten program. Not nearly what those programs are right now. So you can understand why, if you get a call from a Tennessee or an Oregon, why you'd be potentially tempted to leave.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with you. It's just a quick note on the starting pitcher for Nebraska tomorrow. Brett Sears, 6 foot even, 205 pounds, throws from the right-hand side. He's a senior, second year at Nebraska. Here he is. Brett Sears. How about this, though? His season high in innings last year was 4 innings. That you want to talk about adjustments needing to be made is, all right, can Nebraska over the course of the offseason, right? And this is not like doubt coming from me or anything like that, because I think Nebraska's in very capable hands. I know Nebraska's in very capable hands with Rob Childress at the helm and handling the pitching coach duties. But Nebraska now, it's going to be interesting to see who do they try to stretch, right? Over the course of the year, you might see Brett Sears. Maybe tomorrow only goes 4, just because it's game 1. But 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the season, who do we see them start to lean on more to say, all right, go get us 6, go get us 5 and a third? Who do they try to mold from that relief role to now a starting pitcher role?
I think Brett Sears, season high of 4 innings is a little deceiving from last year. We were talking about that with Evan when the rotation came up. Sears was a starter before Nebraska. They decided to use him in the bullpen last year.
Yeah.
But he said he's much more comfortable as a starter.
There you go.
So I think that's why he's their Friday guy, a guy that will give you innings somewhat consistently is at least the vision.
Austin, what's coming up on the block today?
It's going to be a fun one. Nebraska football started their mat drills yesterday or earlier this week. So Strick and I will get into that, maybe some offseason headlines. You teased it. We'll go through ranking the Big Ten football head coaches. A lot of movement. Seems like it's settled. We'll get into that. USA Volleyball seems like it's on the verge of relocating to Gretna.
Yeah.
What could that mean? And in that same story, Omaha's getting looked at by the NHL. The NHL's had nothing but good things to say about Omaha, which is cool. And then Big Ten football preseason win totals. Which ones do we buy? Which ones are we staying away from?
Yeah, there's a lot of them to get to. Make sure you don't go anywhere. On the Block with Austin and Strick is coming up next. Good stuff today. If you missed any of the show, check it out on the podcast page. As always, huge thanks and shout out to Empire Fence and Netting for their support of the program. As always, college baseball, less than 24 hours away. Nebraska, hopefully, will be discussing a win. We'll have plenty of it to discuss tomorrow. I told Austin this earlier. I might be breaking down and buying Flow Sports just to watch the Huskers tomorrow. I don't want to. It's $30. $30 for a subscription.
Too much.
It's incredible. I don't know. Maybe I can find out somebody that has, wants to. I'm not donate it, but go half in on it. Let us know. On the Block with Strick and Austin coming up next. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
If you want to make new floor shopping easier, come to Oak Street